So welcome to another video from Not You, Not I. It's Gibran and Arlene. We thought we'd talk today about comparing yourself to others, something we all do. It's one of my favourite things to do. Not really a favourite, but it's a common thing that I do. And we did post on the Not You, Not I Facebook page a cute little cartoon from Zen Pencils, and it was a quote from Jiddu Krishnamurti, and it's about that topic, what's related to that. So I'm just going to read from it as well, so we get into the groove of that. Throughout life, from childhood, from school until we die, we are taught to compare ourselves with another. Yet, when I compare myself with another, I am destroying myself. In an ordinary school where there are a lot of boys, when one boy is compared with another, who is very clever, who is the head of the class, what is actually taking place? You are destroying the boy. That's what we are doing throughout life. Now, I can live without comparison with anybody. This means there is no high, no low. There is not the one who is superior and the other who is inferior. You are actually what you are, and to understand what you are, this process of comparison must come to an end. If I am always comparing myself with some saint or some teacher, some businessman, writer, poet, and all the rest, what has happened to me? What have I done? I only compare in order to gain, in order to achieve, in order to become. But when I don't compare, I am beginning to understand what I am. Beginning to understand what I am is far more fascinating, far more interesting. It goes beyond all this stupid comparison. To understand yourself is the beginning of wisdom. A lot of thoughts came to my mind reading that. I guess when he was talking early part of the quote about the class, the boy in the class, just him being compared to all the other boys in the class. So immediately to my mind, I thought of when I was at school and being the whole grading system really, but both being, this affects me on so many levels actually. The more I think about it actually, the more that I consider the whole comparing yourself to others situation. I've been doing it since I was in school, since a very early age, and I was very well taught by many teachers, my teachers being the teachers, but also the fellow students. And sometimes it wasn't always negative comparing, sometimes even comparing as in saying I am in a top class or something, but also in a bottom class or something. There was that. And I can tell Gibran wants to say something.
Well, there's a lot of thoughts that come to mind as I hear you say all these. Yeah. As I listen to you say all these, because you just said something about it wasn't always negative comparing. But the whole point here is about, is it possible for us to live without comparison? Psychologically and emotionally. Can we live without comparison? Because comparison, whether it's negative, whether it's judged as negative or positive, is actually dividing and splitting and causing fragmentation, which is what leads to that conflict and to that friction between that which is good and that which is bad. Psychologically and emotionally, can we live without comparison? Psychologically and emotionally, can we do that? That's the question.
Well, actually, if I just for a moment, I'm not going to digress too much, but yesterday I was walking in the park a long time, and I started to think a little bit about this whole biological concept of survival of the fittest, and I think some of that has translated into our psychology of, because I've found myself, for example, when I was walking in the park, I was actually listening to my thoughts, because part of me I was walking and people, I was just walking, I'm not particularly fast, I wasn't walking particularly slow, I was just walking at I don't know my favourite pace. I have a favourite pace. As I'm considered a fast walker in my family, but I'm not really. It's just that my family. Anyway, but that's again, it's a comparison thing. But I was really enjoying that, and I thought. But then there was this. I saw this woman, and she was kind of jogging in front of me, and she jogged past me, and I was noticed. I should. And I started looking at. I find too what happens is I start comparing the. This is going to sound. I'm going to sound really bad, but like I'm trying to reduce some of my body fat because I don't feel comfortable with it, and I started looking at this woman going, I was looking at her body fat ratio, and then I went, yeah, I don't know, a whole lot of, it was a half an hour probably of process going on in my mind, anyway, I let go of that comparative thinking. And then this woman, as I was going back, so in this park you just walk along, just to give you some context, you walk for a long period of time, and then you come back, then you have to return. I'm not sort of circling back, and she came back she passed me again on my return, and I was like, it was a bit, because I'd started watching my thoughts about that, I found that I was able to let go of them much quicker. So I started going, she's gone past me again. And then I started walking a bit faster, and then actually the funny part was then a guy, because people love to make comments to you, he says, you're walking really fast, So it was all this, everyone had, so I guess it was kind of a metaphorical, life was showing me, or this is what I perceive anyway, life was showing me that everyone has a different view of what fast walking is, like he thought I was walking fast, I thought I was walking too slow, all this kind of, it was just nuts, and I'm sure it usually happens to me when I'm in the park. I'm kind of like, just be okay with the pace you're walking, you don't need to run, you don't need to go any faster, you're walking what you can manage, so that was just one of the many times I compare things. And it was interesting just watching those thoughts. But that's where it led me to this thing of it's this survival of the fit. Everyone in this park was, they were trying to get fitter in a way. Like it was that same word, It was who was the fittest, and there is a lot of this. You can't help, but I don't know. Or at least at this stage, I haven't been able to kind of not look at everyone's bodies and just. It's not like I don't say it in a really bad judgmental way. It's just more like you do look. I don't know. Can you get to a stage where you don't do that?
Let's see if we can maybe go to an even.
I know this seems really superficial, but it's a thought. It's still a thought process that goes in your mind, or occurs in my mind at least.
Well, if it was so superficial, it wouldn't have taken so much of your time and energy.
Yeah, it took a lot of my time and
so
energy.
So it is not really that shallow.
It's not. Okay.
So the question you asked was, do we get to a point where we stop? Can you say that again?
We stop. Like, I would like to just go in that park, and I eventually did. I eventually let go of those thoughts, and for a long time I was just walking the park, and I felt that, when you're walking and I find this sometimes when I've been walking for a long time, I do get to a state where the thoughts are less, and I'm just observing nature, I started going into having a relationship with nature. I felt touch of that. So I guess what I'd like to do is, if I was going to pick a goal in directing my mind, would be I enter the park and I'm just in the park and that's it, and I'm just experiencing it, and there are no judgmental thoughts going on in my mind.
Okay.
I'd like to walk without
We
my
have
mind
to-
being so busy.
I think we have to be mindful of everything that's going on with oneself when one is in situations like that. Now, there's a part of us that wishes that we could just jump, like from being totally immersed in this process where we identify with the mind that is trying to discern, whether what this is good, this is bad, is this better, is this worse. So we want to go from there to being totally at peace and totally at one with everything that is happening right now. I think the first step is to first come to terms with the fact that there is something, that this mind is constantly and totally and all the time. It doesn't know what else to do. I mean, that's its job. It's there to compare, to differentiate, to create distinction, to separate, because it has a practical purpose. Now the problem is that we have, as you said before, transferred the practical purpose of comparison to a psychological and emotional level through our identification with every thought, every thought of comparison that comes to our minds. So first thing, wouldn't it be to simply notice that, become aware of the fact that there is something in you that is talking to you about this, chattering to you about this, telling you, this person is bad.
Yeah.
Just become aware of that without trying to change it or push it away or resist it or anything else. You just become aware of that. And in this mere observation, in the mere fact of you becoming aware of it and not actually pushing it away or engaging with it or trying to run away from it, in the mere observation, your attention has moved away from this identification of the comparison to a state where you're simply actually observing. You yourself, this psychological, emotional part of you is no longer identified, or is no longer being oppressed in a way by this comparison, because it knows by the fact of observing it that it's not that which is saying, okay, this person is running faster or I should run faster, is not itself. It's something else that it's looking at. So just in being able to maintain your attention on that is the first step, and from there it's just like a natural step forward that you take, where you're no longer identified with it. Now,
so yeah, I mean, I eventually did do that, but because I'm trying to listen to these readings and teachings and trying to incorporate it into my life as much as possible, and but it's going to take a while. Do you ever really?
I mean, is it really going to take a while? I mean, in the moment
so I'm projecting something there again.
You are creating a whole story, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
The story that is going to take a while. So you're comparing who you are now to some projected image of yourself in the future. So you're actually falling into comparison again. In order to get out of psychological and emotional comparison, you have to meet life right now in the moment as it is. And forget about this idea that there is anything wrong with actually falling into comparison. Because having the idea that there's something wrong with falling into comparison is actually bringing you into this psychological and emotional comparison.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because then I'm comparing myself to someone who doesn't do that as much.
Comparison.
It's like a kind of. It's like this old Swedish ad, layer upon layer upon layer upon layer.
Stepping out of comparison. You cannot step out of comparison by using the same mind, the same mechanical process that exists through comparison, which is, your mechanical thinking mind. Now, what you're saying, the way you're phrasing it, is like, I want to get out of comparison, and I want to understand. I want to have a process. I want to know that I will never compare again. But the thing is, you will always be.
I probably will always, but I just would like to not. Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
I'd like that little voice that says blah blah blah.
well, it wants. The point is not to stop
yeah,
it,
yeah.
but to stop.
Not to stop it, yeah.
But to stop psychologically and emotionally identifying with it, because it'll always tell you that there's something wrong, or that there could be something better, or it's never going to feel complete, because if it was ever complete, it would cease to have any function. Like it will have no purpose anymore, and its purpose is to, on a practical level, be able to discern whether I put this food here or not, whether I eat this food or not, whether I make this decision or not. There is a practical level where comparison is needed. But when we take that to a deeper, wider psychological and emotional level, and we identify this practical level of ourselves with the entirety of ourselves, with our whole selves, then we'll never get out of it until we see that, until we see that there's a practical level to it, and then there's another level where comparison is not needed at all. The only thing that you need is to be present, to be there, to have your attention in what's happening right now, so you can meet whatever is happening right now with totally open, and with everything that life is that life has brought to your disposal.